Hello, my friends. Welcome to Instant Out Electronic channel. This is Uncle Misha, and today we have another cassette deck on our bench. So this one is Technics stereo cassette deck M228X. Some people call it classic Technics cassette deck. I don't know why it's called classic. The only thing I would say about this thing is classic, that it probably has very Technics, not sophisticated, a proprietary cassette mechanism. So this maybe make it classic. Plus also it has DBX noise reduction, as you see on the front panel. So let's take a look. What do we have? First of all, I got this for cheap, and I got it because it was sold also with some cassette tapes, and 3 of them were metal cassette tapes sealed. So I got, essentially for several dollars, I got 3 metal cassette decks. 3 metal cassette tapes sealed. So that was great. TDK, MA. Nothing really too special, too crazy, too unobtainium, but nevertheless, just pure economics. That was totally worth the money. So, but let's talk about cassette decks. So we have this Technics M228X. Nothing really special. It says one touch, rewind, recording, full auto stop. So this is essentially paraphernalia of all super basic cassette decks. So every cassette deck has to have a rewind, autoplay, full auto stop. This is like a must, right? And they say one touch. So at first I thought the buttons here, which you see right here, they are like sensor, like buttons, essentially electronically controlling the tape mechanism. Turned out to be this is not. All these buttons right here, they are mechanically coupled by some kind of linkages to the tape mechanism. So essentially, this all mechanical. So this is all mechanical. So this is all engaging. You see that? Mechanically. Well, it's still nice to have this than piano keys, which I don't really like the piano keys. This still works probably better, but the amount of linkages here and complexity of this mechanism is pretty bad. So I assume, I never actually opened this yet, but I assume, because can you imagine linkages from here to here and yada yada yada. So if something breaks here, you have a problem. Okay, so let's see what we have. So we have a eject here, which is nice and smooth. Power button, phones. We have a counter. We have all controls right here. Counter reset, which is actually mechanical as well. Rec mute is actually a button. So output level, which is nice because it controls output. Here it on the back. So it's variable output in the back. Then we have input selector, which is actually nice as well. I like input selector because some of them using electronic input selector, some other cassette deck using the potentiometer, which is essentially regulates the microphone input, and when you turn it one way or another, essentially turning on and off microphones. So which is like, this is much more interesting to me. So then we have noise reduction selector. It's like Dolby noise reduction out, which is no. Then we have DBX, tape and disc. I assume disc is like out or something. I have no idea what that really supposed to mean, in or out. And then we have input level, so which controls your input level when you are recording. It has vacuum fluorescent display here, which is actually not too bad, and looks like it starts from -40 dB and goes all the way to +10 dB, which is, I think it's a pretty decent for this sort of basic cassette deck. And if you're talking about basicness, it's not probably the worst one. So the frequency response with metal cassette would be up to 18 kilohertz. I think this is not too bad for this sort of level. This thing has automatic tape type selection and no bias, as you see. So, and the cassette type would be displayed here, and record mode will be displayed right here. That's pretty much it. It's actually in pretty good shape cosmetically. No scratches, nothing. It came with the box, original box, and the styrofoam inserts. So yeah, I have actually box of this thing, so it's in good shape. It has box, no manual though, unfortunately. So let's take a look at the back. I just noticed the back is a bit dirty, but in someone labeled in and out very pretty much ugly. But we have just very basic two inputs, left and right channel. That's pretty much it. It's just wired like that, no plug. Made in Japan, it says. And another thing I noticed, all this stuff is plastic. So after looking around, I noticed that this guy has completely plastic chassis. The whole thing is plastic except this metal box. So which is kind of interesting, because metal is good because it can also shield the electronic components inside the cassette deck. But in this case, I'm not sure, unless they have some kind of shielding inside, which is like a foil or aluminum kind of inserts. This thing all plastic, and the bottom is plastic as well. So it's just kind of not cool. But again, this is relatively basic, or actually is a basic cassette deck. So now we would have to power it up. But before we power it up, let's take it to the bench and take a look if everything is fine inside. Like, let's check transformer, fuses, capacitors, to see if belts are all twisted and broken. Otherwise, there is no point to power it up. We need to fix it. So let's go to the bench. Okay, so now we have this Technics, what should I name it? M228X safely on the bench. And let's take a look what do we have. So before we actually power this gentleman up, we have to take a look inside to understand if it's all nice and sound. You know, leaking capacitors, you know, all this kind of stuff, broken transformers. Yeah. So what are you gonna do? I'm gonna unscrew it. It's not that many screws, and we're gonna take a peek. So if you're gonna see something bad, we're not gonna power it up, and we'll try to fix it. All right. There's only 4 screws on the perimeter. Right here, 1, 2, and we're gonna unscrew them. Okay, 4 screws are out, and here we are. By the way, screws are self-toppers, right? Why? Because all the chassis here is completely made of plastic. Okay, so it's looking better than I expected. Yep. Power supply is completely separate unit, as you see. Power transformer is completely separate unit. It has fuses. It has physical switch, which is really good. But majority of the cassette decks of that era has the physical switch. There is also probably unpopulated voltage selector here, looks like, because it's non-unpopulated, and that's what we have. Apparently, obviously, in all majority like simpler cassette decks, instead of having some kind of relay, they have this multi-faceted switch, and in this case, this switch is actually engaged by this very long rod, and if you switch it to record mode, it's just, I guess, it's pulls it like this, okay, and engages and switches the mode between playback and record. What is this? This totally looks like some kind of op-amp board. It has several op-amps here. Curious what this could be. DBX board or DBX, the Dolby B noise reduction port. Okay, I'm guessing here because it doesn't have service manual, but this is my take. It's only one-sided load, obviously. There is a lot of things going on here. Very interesting. Never seen this construction before. What I found actually nice, that not majority, but many things are interconnected with like these connectors, right? Okay, like a head, for example. This is soldered, whatever. You see, it's not everything, like half of it. Okay, well, better than nothing, right? I don't really see big. Oh, okay, here is the Dolby chip. Okay, Dolby chip 1, which is NE
64 6N, and there is another. So obviously they have only two for record and two for playback. Sorry, not two for only two, and they are used either one way or another, either for record or for playback. Okay, so here is power supply section, like this one. This is coming from transformer all the way to power supply. It has two transistors in the power supply section. All capacitors are famous or infamous. I think those are Matsushita capacitors, aren't they? Really hard to say. Man, yes, they are. CE, Matsushita CE. Yeah, and this orange one, they are Matsushita. The dark blue one, Matsushita, and light blue, who are you? Matsushita as well. All three types, only three types of capacitors, all of them Matsushita. So essentially, every capacitor in this board is Matsushita - Panasonic. Which is okay, but those blue ones, they are candidate to get leaky. So, but looks like I don't see any leaking capacitors so far, because on other cassette deck it was quite obvious that they are leaking. There's very interesting chippy right here, the big one, but I believe this is the indicator, like, which is the drives the vacuum fluorescent. I think this is vacuum fluorescent display meter. Okay, the interesting part is the tape mechanism. As you see, it's quite substantial, and there is lots of cogs here, and only one single Matsushita 12-volt motor. So I'm gonna take some pictures of all these jars. I'm gonna take a look. What is this? This totally looks like a DBX noise reduction board. Yeah, I'm curious, why does it have to be on the side, on a separate board like that? But I never actually seen one before, but now I realized why, because it's way more complicated than Dolby. Way more involving, and looks like it's majority of discrete components, like one op amp, like it's like one, yeah, it's like 3 op amps per channel, three op amp chips. Like each of those, there is a deep the configuration, and also SIP configuration contains 2 op amps, so it's like 6 op amps one side, 6 op amps another side. Nuts. Alright, I'm gonna take some photos before I continue, and I will try to power it up, because seems to be nothing bad with it. And belts, good luck finding belts here. This is insane. I see bloody nothing. Nothing. Oh my god. Okay, moment of truth. Power on. What's going on? Why it's doing that right away? Really? Wait. That's nuts. Is this gearing? It's always rotating. This is unbelievable. I think is this like lubricants, or this is freaking melted melted belt? I hope this is like a lube, because if it's melted belt, I don't like this. Alright, well, nevertheless, if this thing is spinny, let's just power up something. Now it's actually okay. So vacuum fluorescent display is actually multicolored. It has 2 colors. It's actually very nice. I will shut off Dolby. I will do lineup. Doesn't matter. Yep. So output level is here. Big confusion for me is these buttons. I thought they are, you know, like computer control. Turn out to be they are not. All this stuff. Oh, it's spinny. All this stuff. You see, do you hear this clank? All this stuff is mechanical. Yeah. It is. Oh, this timer thingy. Okay, so I guess it's time to give it a spin with actually proper cassette. Yeah, it's actually making quite substantial noise, and I believe it's like almost like in rewind mode or something. So for this test, I have my headphones and a 1/4" connector. Let's start with the most, let's see first the heads condition, by the way, because I start to be very eager to power it up, but no, head is actually not too bad. I will clean up it in just a second. And pinch roller is actually not too, well, a bit dirty. Let me clean this up. I think it's need some cleanup. Let me also try to make a photo of it. Alright, so I have cleaned up the pinch roller, capstan shaft, and both heads. So let's try Gotta Be Sokak. Alright, and it plays. Okay, it plays. I don't know, like it plays weirdly. Let me try another cassette. I'm not sure if it's a speed issue or some. Let me try. This is type 2. This is YouTube library music recorded. Let's see how that plays. Oh, it's issue. It feels like it plays quieter than I would expect it to play, unless these headphones like shit. Oh yeah, I don't see because it's glaring. Oh my god, this is so glaring. I really want to show you the levels. It actually shows levels. So levels are correct. Yeah. It detected as a type 2. All perfect here. Alright, so it just plays quieter than I wanted to, so I cannot wrap my mind around it. Alright, so let's just stop this and eject and use our speed calibration thing. Okay, minus 12 dB. Actually, it's correct. It's recorded at minus 12 dB, and this gentleman actually says minus 12 dB. So level here is at least intact with Harman Kardon a CD 491. Okay, so but in order to judge the speed, we need to use a multimeter. So I have this contraption I'm using for this purpose. I'm just gonna swap like this and take a multimeter, switch it to stupid thing, okay, and then do hertz, and we're gonna get some readings. Okay, speed is off. Oh wow. So it's like minus 50 hertz. But that's not too bad. Yeah, I was kind of feeling it was a bit on the slower side. Okay, so how do we adjust speed in this guy? Very interesting question. Let me stop, eject, and power off. Oops. And let's see something. So some of the motors, okay, let me also not just power off, I just pull the power, because this stuff is just here, like you can just put the finger here and gonna be shocked for good. Oh, here we are. So there is a little motor here, which is Matsushita as well, MMI 6A2L KPA. And there is a little opening here, and this is how we adjust the speed of the motor. Okay, so let's power it back. Let's take our cassette back. And now we have to find the appropriate screwdriver, which can fit right here, because transformer is just here. It kind of sucks to do this, but I have an idea. Okay, I have this ceramic screwdriver, which is thin enough in order to actually properly get in. And now we have to play it again. Get our contraption back here. Unfortunately, because this guy doesn't have a proper chassis, I don't have a... Get slower, I think. Oh, cool. Here we are. I think we can actually dial it slightly back. Oh wow, it's really hard to precisely dial this guy. Do I care? Okay, I think this is as good as it can be. Let me stop it. Play again. Okay, stop it. Forward. Play again. More or less. Good. Good, good, good. I think this is very good. I'm also interested to measure voltage on output. Okay, at where is ground? Let's do not frequency, but voltage again. What do you have? Millivolts. Okay, gonna auto range. Yeah, honestly, don't remember which is in or out. Out. So this is out. So let's just measure again. Does it correspond to? I think one channel is obviously higher than another. 97 versus 104. This is a bit lower than I would say for minus 12 dB, but it's ballpark close to it. Yeah. Okay, so this is at max output level. So guys, I think this is as good as it can be. Levels are more or less okay. The speed is alright. I'm actually surprised this thing works out of the box and I don't have to replace the bazillion of belts. I don't know, I think I'm gonna be kinda done with it. Yeah, so what I'm gonna do, I actually try to record with this gentleman and we're gonna see if how it performs. And at this point we have a very cheap, completely operational cassette deck. I'm pretty happy about it. I'm just not sure what we're gonna do with it because I have a whole bunch of other things on my table and taking so much space. So yeah, but this is gonna be another story. So far so good. This little guy seems to be Very nicely done here. I would say this is actually well done. Especially I love this DBX. What's gonna happen if I pull this DBX board out? Was it gonna start without it? Let me see that. So it was very easy to pull this board out. This is amazing. Actually, I love it when it's just like that. So simple. The reason I'm thinking about this DBX board, because I do have a TIAC, a cassette deck 3-header, which actually has a place for similar, I'm not sure if this is even close to it, but similar DBX noise reduction board. So I'm kind of thinking, can I MacGyver, like sell this without DBX, for example, or just like MacGyver something and actually use this board for that cassette deck? Would be amazing. But let's see what's happened. We're gonna just power it off. Well, obviously it's gonna work because it doesn't even realize that this thing is missing. Yep. Before you even turn this DBX on, maybe it's just not gonna do anything. Yeah, cool. This is this little experiment. Oh no, I was wrong. Those cheapies, they are marked. They have DBX logos on them. Yeah, this is amazing. I'm gonna take a shot when it actually shows. It's probably the most valuable part in this cassette deck, maybe aside this Matsushita motor. So sometimes it's actually good to acquire super cheap decks, because sometimes the parts like this motor are very hard to get for other decks. Maybe sometimes Dolby noise reduction chips. So yeah, and this chip, for example, if it's shared among with some kind of more expensive cassette decks, this like driver which actually drives a vacuum fluorescent display, this could be an unobtainium, and the only way to get this chip is to actually pull it out of a younger brother cassette deck. Yeah, that's the only way. So sometimes it's useful to have this like cheapo cassette decks which you can actually completely take for parts for repairing the older, more expensive brother. Yeah, so keep that in mind. I think, guys, that's gonna be it for this particular video. So far so good. I'm pretty happy. We got completely operational Technics M228X stereo cassette deck, one touch recording, rewind, autoplay, full auto stop with DBX noise reduction system. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time. Stay tuned for more videos. Stay safe and ciao.